Hey everybody, welcome back to the Y'all Are Crazy Ranch podcast. This is part 2. So last week we talked about how sports changed us and affected our life, and we're using it as a tool to help our children. Today we're going to be talking about how our past jobs have affected us and prepared us for where we are today.
Yeah, when I think back on some jobs, man, I had some good ones growing up. You know?
You did?
Oh, yeah. Some good ones. When I mean good ones, I mean tough ones. And I think that's where everybody has to start, and I think that's good for you. I was reading a book, and I was trying to remember what it said, but I was reading it last week, and it was that book by Coach Tom Mullins, you know, talking about Grandpa's Wisdom. It's a great book, by the way. I highly recommend y'all buy it. But I think he talked about the ladder of success, and it always starts at the bottom. There's no way to get to the top without starting at the bottom and climbing up. And I think a lot of people want to skip and just hop up to the top, and it doesn't work that way. And so, you know, those jobs that are tough in the beginning and not desirable, man, they really build you.
They really do. And I think the main point we want to get across today is that work is a good thing. God actually gave us work. He actually gave Adam and Eve work and jobs in the Garden of Eden. And this was prior to the fall. So they had jobs to do.
Yeah, the first order of business God gave Adam was to tend the garden.
Yeah, and so I think we often see work as maybe a punishment or something that we have to do. But it's important to realize that work is a good thing, and work is good for us to do. Work can come in many different forms, but I think work really means to be fruitful, if you will, and to be productive and to get things done. So work can be a lot of different ways, but it's important for people to work and to have a purpose.
Yeah, and I think it's good to, to work and accomplish things, build things, get your job done well, look back and see what you've done. All that stuff is good for you, good for your spirit, gives you purpose. And, people need purpose. I mean, God wired us that way. And so work is a blessing, and it's not something that you should be looked at as a burden or anything like that. In today's society, everybody wants a 4-hour work week and live on the beach. And it's like, that's not fulfilling. Even if you did that, after a week or two, you'd probably be bored and going mentally insane. Like, you have to have something to work on. That's just how we're wired.
Yeah. And I think work, if we view work in a different light, it changes our mindset. Maybe instead of saying I have to go to work, it's I get to go to work. And if you say these things to your kids, it's going to prepare them that they get to go to work someday. Now, you might not be doing your dream job currently. We don't get to start doing our dream job. And sometimes even when we are a little later in life, maybe we're still not doing our dream job, but we are trying to work towards something.
Yeah. I remember growing up, I always had projects to work on. Dad always had some kind of project going on around the place. And I don't know if I was 10 years old or whatever, started mowing the grass, push mowing the grass, bagging it.
We started having our son do that, both of our older boys this summer. It was kind of cute, actually. They one would mow, one would weed eat, and one would, what was he doing? Picking stuff up? I don't know.
Yeah.
He was doing, he was like a leaf blowing.
Oh, we blow off the porch and stuff.
And raking.
Yeah. And I think about some of my first job. My first job outside of working at the house doing projects was, I think I was 14 and I had a motorcycle. My dad got me a motorcycle.
We don't recommend that. No.
Yeah.
Our boys will not be doing that.
No. Looking back, it probably wasn't a great idea, but I survived. I didn't die. So I'm here to tell the story. But when I was 14, I went to work for a man that was super successful. Wasn't too far away from my dad's house. And I just did odd jobs around his place. He had a really nice place. He had a nice pool. I remember some of the projects I did for him was his pool had tile, around the top, between the water level and the concrete at the top. And he wanted me to scrub the tile with muriatic acid. And it was I remember I had a toothbrush and muriatic acid and just scrubbing the little tiles.
Oh, yeah.
And it was then my toothbrush would melt from the acid, and And it was like I didn't have any other tools or
Were
anything.
you like in the pool water?
Yeah, a lot of times.
Was the acid going into the water?
I don't remember. I don't.
This sounds dangerous.
It's hot, in the summer, and so I don't know if a lot of my time. I think I was in the pool most of the time. Maybe sometime, laying on my belly, but
Okay.
I just remember that, and I was like, man, this job is terrible. And I don't remember. I made $7 an hour or something like that. I mean, a 14-year-old kid, and he was giving me work to do. I remember I was about done, and he came home from work, and I think I've been at it for a day or two, and then he's like, well, I got a drill over here in the garage with like a scrubber attachment on the end of it, and you could use that. And I was like, oh my gosh, well, that would have been nice to know a couple days ago.
What's funny is now we hire kids to work on the ranch for us, and sometimes they're 14, 15 years old. And it is funny to watch them learn. Our ranch manager might always think it's funny because he's the one that has to coach them.
Yeah.
And I know one of the kids, he told his dad, he said, well, he's a great worker. He's a great kid. But some things I gave him to work on is he has to move faster. He walks too slow. And the other thing was he has to quit saying, was it yeah?
Huh.
Oh, huh, all the time.
Huh. Every time John would tell him something, he'd go, huh? And it was like, you
Just
hear
a
me.
habit.
Yeah. But I remember that. I remember at that same house, he had an ivy growing up the side of his house to the eaves. And I had to go with a ladder and shears and cut the ivy like a foot below the leaves all the way around the house, like in a straight line.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then he had this creek in the back of the property. Maybe it was an acre or something like that. And the creek was like, when you're walking, you get up to it, it was like 5 feet down, maybe 4 or 5 feet down. And he's like, I want to build a retaining wall in that creek to stop the erosion of my yard. And I was like, all right.
That seems like a hard job for a 14-year-old.
Yeah, so I show up the next day, and he's got a truck, and in the back he's got like a pallet of these big, brick pavers. And it was like, 50 yards down there to the creek, and it was like had a wheelbarrow and the pavers. And so
Did he help you? Like, did he
No.
tell you what to do?
No, I'm by myself. Well, I mean, I had to get him down there and build it. So I put him in the wheelbarrow and wheelbarrow it down the hill, and push it down to the creek, get him out. And then the edge of the creek was not like straight yet. You know what I mean? I mean, it's like, So I remember I had an axe and just had to like hit the dirt, and get it a straight wall so I could stack the bricks straight up. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I remember being down there with just shovels and an axe and just chipping away at this wall and I worked on that for several weeks, I believe, and eventually had a retaining wall built down there,
It's a lot of trust to put in a 14-year-old.
Yeah. And I wasn't even planning to talk about that, but it just hit me of like memories of thinking about the tough jobs growing up,
Yeah. Well, I grew up on a farm, and so I grew up doing a lot of stuff outside, like in the dirt. My family rode horses, and so we would like go on trail rides and stuff together as a family. I say that as if that's a normal thing, but I realize that is not a normal thing. So a trail ride is when you are on horseback and you ride through trails, but it's not like an easy thing. It's like a full day thing. Sometimes even a camp out at night. So which is great family memories. We would like pack saddlebags with our lunch in it, and we would go for a full day ride. And this was like through canyons, across creeks, all that stuff. Most of the time we'd like stop and eat lunch, have a picnic, come back, and there would be like a chuck wagon dinner that night. And then you camp out and you do it again the next day. So a lot of my memories as a kid was doing stuff outside and on the farm and learning. My first car I learned to drive in was like an old farm truck in the pasture, and it was a stick shift, and it was hard to drive, of course. And so that's how a lot of my younger years started, which I'm so glad. I'm so glad I was raised that way, and that's the memories I have. But when I turned 16 is when I really started like working. As a kid, I did a lot of things, but I don't remember getting paid for them.
Right.
I painted a lot of fence, just did a lot of stuff to help my mom and dad around the place. But I feel like I just did that because that's what you're expected to do. But when I was 16, I got my license and I wanted to work. So I got a job waitressing at a little place in a town close to me, about 20 minutes away. They were only open from 11 to 2. And so I worked from like 10 to 3 every day. But it was super busy. It was a lunch place and it was so good. And I remember I didn't make hardly anything. They paid you per hour and then you got tips, but you had to split your tips. And so I didn't even get to keep all my tips, but they did let us eat at the end of the day, and their food was amazing. So
That's
I
good.
got to eat and it was so good. And I learned, oh my goodness, from waitressing, the lessons I learned from waitressing, amazing. I learned how to communicate with people, solve problems, be on my feet for hours at a time, take orders, work with the cooks, and everyone that worked in there worked together. And I learned how to smile at people, look them in the eye, meet needs. The harder I worked, the better tips I got. So I worked there. I worked at a little diner in the town I lived in. I worked at a Mexican food place. And sometimes I would work 2 of those places in one day. So I'd leave one and go to the next. But the lessons that waitressing taught me, unbelievable.
Yeah, those are great lessons that help you today in your career, talking to people, communicating.
Absolutely.
And I was just thinking about this, like when I took that job at 14 doing all that stuff, I remember, he had a pool and then he had like a pool house, like just with a bathroom and stuff. And I was like, man, this is just next level. Like I'd never even been around a house this nice before in my life. And I remember going in the bathroom, then going in the house and seeing just photos. And I remember seeing photos of him golfing at like super nice golf courses. And I could tell he and his wife traveled a lot around the world and had all these photos. And I was like, man, I don't know what this guy does, but this is like what I want to be like this one day. And, it's kind of funny. As I grew up, I realized that he used to be a State Farm agent.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's
and
cool.
then he built a career in State Farm at the corporate world.
His travel was probably the travel trips, which we do now.
Yeah, but I remember,
hilarious.
Okay, if I was 14, and then I think I started looking into the State Farm thing around 22, 23, something like that. But then I was like, hey, wait, that's what he did.
That's cool.
And it's like, I think if your kid gets a chance to go work for somebody successful around their house and stuff like that, you never know the unseen lessons that you learn by it's not the job you're doing. It's the seeing how other people live and getting to talk to them and seeing their life and seeing if that's something you want to do. And anyway, that was kind of neat how that turned out. And, my career's been great for my life and stuff too. So it's been awesome.
That's right.
Yeah.
Some other jobs that we had as we got a little older, like in college, you can talk about what you did in college. For me, I was a resident advisor for most of my college years. And that means that I actually lived in the dorm and I got free room and board, which was pretty cool. And so I got that, and I was in the dorm that you got your own room and bathroom, which was a big deal. But my main job in that, I think it was 20 hours a week. And so I was an overseer of the residents on my hall, answered questions, helped them when they needed it, worked the front desk, and just, checked smoke alarms and facilitated activities. And I loved it. It's like perfect college job for me. I think I made $500 a month, which for a college student who you get your room and board paid, that was great little extra money.
Yeah.
And it was doing something that was in my wheelhouse and I enjoyed doing. And so that was really fun. I enjoyed that job a lot. It taught me a lot of lessons. I know sometimes when I would work the front desk, we would take turns on weekends. And I think it was 2 of us. And so you might get on the night shift. And so I'd have to work that front desk till 2 a.m. sometimes.
I remember that.
You'd come visit me sometimes. But it was such a boring job because not many people are out at 2 a.m. But that was part of the job. And so with that job, I learned responsibility, like serving others, being responsible for taking care of things around there, and just being super active, involved. I got to be nominated as homecoming queen while I was working at Stewart Hall and ended up winning that my sophomore year. And it was because I was nominated through the dorm that I served at. So that was kind of my college experience work.
Yeah, mine was a lot different. My main college job was working in a butcher shop up the road, and mainly processing cattle, hogs, deer.
Which is I feel like a very
buffaloes.
useful skill set.
It is useful, and it was good hard work and, a little dangerous work too, because, you're sitting there at a table and with a super sharp knife just cutting meat all day, the head meat cutter guy would hand you a big old cow leg and you'd have to like stand it up on its side and get your knife and drag it down the bone. And
things that, like, once again, these are not normal terms. I remember when you would tell me the meat cutter or the killer was the guy who kills the animals.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, the killer? That's it. I wouldn't want that
killer
job.
And I remember too, is like the head meat cutter guy, he's got this giant bandsaw that's just going all the time.
Yeah,
and
sounds dangerous.
You bring the side of beef in from the cooler and it's hanging from the ceiling.
You're like Rocky.
Yeah, and he's got a saw, and he finishes cutting it in half. And then he takes that front quarter and puts it up on the bandsaw and he starts running it through the saw. It's like, and he just sawing it up. Well, I guess, it was long before I worked there, he had accidentally ran his finger through the saw.
Gosh.
And they had saved it, put it on ice, got into the hospital, reattached it. But and those of you that are just listening and can't see, it might not be as funny. But, his finger was put back on, but it was crooked like that, And so we'd always mess with him when he'd say, "Hey, Bronson, can you hand me that over there?" And we'd kind of turn sideways and he'd be like, "Shut up."
He can't point straight.
It was like, "Well, I thought you was pointing over there," and he'd be like, "I'm going to kill you." It was a good times, but that was a great job and taught me a lot of hard work lessons. You'd have to go into the freezers, and the freezers, I think, were like 6 degrees, something like that, super cold.
I remember going to visit you up there, and it was...
Did I ever take you in one of those?
Yeah.
I feel like I did.
You did, and like there was blood on the ground, and it stunk.
And you got to stack the meat in the shelves all the way up, and there's fans blowing, and you're not supposed to be in there for very long, and... I remember I'd be in there just working away with my Carhartts on, and then your nose would start to run, and the snot would freeze to your mustache.
Your hands were always very rough.
Well, we'd also do like hams, and you'd have this big gondola, they called it. It was like a giant tub, like 4 foot by 4 foot, and it was on wheels, and they'd fill it full of water and like a salt water solution or whatever, and you'd pump these hams full of like salt water or cure and whatever. And then you'd have to go take those hams after they cured for a while and hang them in the smoker. You got to put them in this sack and hang them in a smoker. But you're putting your hands in the cold water and the cold hams, and then your hands are numb. And you're in the back of the shop in the wintertime when it's freezing outside, and there's no heater back there or nothing. And so it's cold back there, let alone cold. And so it was
I remember
man.
The first time you held my hand, and I thought, man, his hands are rough. But I also thought, it's like my dad's hands.
Yeah, they're like sandpaper.
Well, my dad has worked outside with his hands my whole life. And so my dad's always had rough hands. And so, like, I thought that's how a man should be. And so now, obviously I don't hold men's hand, but like I shake their hands sometimes or see their hands. And when they're soft, I'm like, I don't know what to think about this, because I think that men should have rough hands. Okay, this is a funny story I haven't told you yet. Somebody was telling me this week that their husband shot a deer.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh yeah, my husband and my boys got a couple deers this season, and they're like, oh yeah, where does he take them to process them? I'm like, take them? And she's like, yeah, doesn't he take them somewhere to get the meat made? And I'm like, no, he does it all himself.
Yeah.
And she's like, what? He knows how to do that? And it's like, yeah, that college job was very useful for you, taught you great things, and it's very useful now.
Oh, yeah. We just hang a deer from a tree, and I get the knife out and just go to town, start skinning it, and then cording it up, and then...
I don't like to watch it, but it's been good for the boys to experience.
Yeah, then I cut it up into pieces, and we, get the boys, and we grind it up, and we got a grinder, and we put it in bags and vacuum pack it and seal it, put it in the freezer, and... So it's nice to be able to do all that, but I remember too at that job in college, I think I made $7.25 an hour was the pay, but I could come and go around my work or my school schedule. If I had a class in the morning, I'd come right after. Then if I had one in the afternoon, I'd go to class, then come back again, and that part was really nice. The owner worked with me on that, and then he also gave me the responsibility and the opportunity to clean the butcher shop after hours, and so everybody left at 5. And the shop was a mess, and my job was to come in with a big kerosene burner power washer that made that water like boiling, not really boiling, but hot, and just had to spray it from floor to ceiling, spray the bandsaw, spray the grinder, spray everything, and clean all the meat and the blood off and wash it all down the drains. And I got it down to where I could do it in about 45 minutes most all the time. And I got paid $25 for that. So it was like $25 an hour is the way I looked at it. But that taught me responsibility, because if I ever like slacked off and didn't do it, which I never did, but that would derail their whole next day.
Yeah.
They'd come there that next morning, and then all that stuff would be stuck, and it would so it was a big responsibility. I mean, I remember him telling me, like, you cannot not show up.
Right. That taught you good responsibility.
Yeah.
That's good. Well, some other things. So after we graduated college, like thinking about first jobs outside of that, and what we did before we got into our actual careers, there were a few things. When I graduated college, like we were engaged at that time. We were getting married in September. So we were working on finding our first jobs. For my first job outside of college, I actually did door-to-door sales, and I sold like coupon books for this company. Talk about difficult. It's summer, and I'm walking around door to door trying to sell coupon books. And I don't even remember specifically what these were. They were actually good deals, but who wants a random stranger to come in their place of business and try to sell them coupon books? But it taught me confidence and just stepping outside my comfort zone, and just how to have boldness, which is funny because that really helped me in my career a few years later. After that stint, I got a real job at the Oklahoma State Capitol, and I was a legislative assistant there. And I worked there for 2 years, and I absolutely loved it. My degree was in political science and mass communications, and so I loved being around the excitement of session. Now, outside of session, it was pretty boring because not a lot goes on up there. But inside session, loved it. Great opportunity. So thankful I got to work there. It taught me how to be organized because I worked for a state legislator. So I had to be organized, on top of things, know how to communicate with people that walked into the office, because it could be anyone from a lobbyist or a literally there were days for things. So we would have like mental health awareness day. And so like you never know who was coming in your office on that day.
Yeah.
There was like disability days. So at any given moment, you would either react with compassion or grace or helpfulness or sometimes assertiveness. So it just really taught me how to be confident in what I was doing. My next job is I worked at a energy company in Oklahoma City. This was at the time when Oklahoma City was like booming. The thunder had just come to town. It was a really fun atmosphere to work in. And I did not like my job at all. I actually hated it. But it did still teach me lessons. I got to have some cool experiences, meet some good people, learn some things, and really learn what I did not want to do. It taught me I did not want to be a corporate employee. I did not want to have a boss, and I wanted to work for myself and do my own thing. I wanted to use my skill set that God gave me and not answer to anyone else. So that's kind of my job experience before I got into real estate at the age of 25. But looking back on all my past experiences, I used them. I didn't mention some of the internships I had. I interned at News Channel 9 because I thought I might want to be a news anchor. That taught me I didn't want to do that. I interned at a district attorney's office because I thought I might want to be a lawyer. Taught me I did not want to do that. So those are just some experiences I did that showed me, hey, you thought you wanted to do this, but you don't.
Right.
And that's just as important. A lot of life is figuring out what you don't want to do. When I got into real estate at the age of 25, I just felt like I was home. I felt like it fit my skill set so well.
No pun intended.
What, at home? I just felt like it was perfect for me. Yeah. And, but I think God allowed it I got to use what I had been through, what I'd been taught, what I learned over the years to be like, this is it. You're prepared. Go forth.
Yeah. Well, I think it's important for our kids to do crappy jobs, tough jobs. And in life, it's like the people that end up becoming successful, most of the time on their way there, they did things that nobody else wanted to do. Mm-hmm. And it's those things that help you climb the ladder, if that makes sense.
Yes.
And one of the lessons I started to learn too, once I got into owning my own business and growing it and stuff like that is, one guy put it this way, he's like, you don't get paid by the hour, you get paid by the value that you bring to that hour.
That's good.
And it was like, man, so the more value I can bring to the marketplace, the more reward I will get in return. And so at this point now with our different businesses, it's like I'm constantly focused on how can I bring more value per hour, and that's a super important lesson. Now, if you don't learn those lessons and you just show up to work and you're kind of don't have a great attitude and you just get through the day, you minimal effort, when the boss ain't looking, you're not trying, you're scrolling Facebook at work, stuff like that, you're probably not going to get paid a whole lot per hour. And you're going to stick kind of where you are because you're not bringing much value. And I can tell you right now, in today's world as an employer and stuff, man, employers are looking for people that bring value. And the more value you can bring them, they will gladly pay you more money to help advance their company. And so I learned that lesson early on. I learned that too, I think maybe when I was a personal trainer at that gym. You remember when I took that job?
Yes.
And it was like I'd have to wake up at 4:30 to go train a client and then go back at 8 p.m. to train another client.
That's when we were newlyweds. You had a bad schedule.
It was bad. Had a lot of time during the middle of the day, nothing to do, because people came before work and after work, and it just made for long days. And anyways, and people canceling on you, it was bad. But if you remember right, when those two guys bought the gym, and one was an insurance agent, and one was an attorney, and we were going to buy new equipment, and they didn't know what equipment to buy, so they were having me pick it all out. And then I was asking him what he thought about this and about that. And when he looked at me and said, "Bronson, I don't give a darn what it is. You're the fitness guy. You pick it out." I think he said it's costing me like $230 an hour for my time to sit here and be here. And I was like, "Do what? I don't even make that in a day." Like,
well, not even close.
Not even. I mean, I was like, "Oh, are you serious?" And like, I hadn't even been around nobody like that, or needs nobody that had told me stuff like that was even possible. And I was like, man, that's what I thought. I'm doing the wrong thing over here. But obviously in his, lawyer career, he brings a lot of value to people and helps them in their times of need. And so he gets rewarded for it. But those are important lessons. And these low end jobs, or whatever you want to call it, starter jobs, man, they help you build character and they help you learn more than I think what the other jobs do at the top,
Yeah, and I think it's so important for your kids, maybe when they're in the home and they're not ready to work yet, just to give them jobs like mowing the yard, painting fence. People laugh at our kids all the time because we have a lot of fence to paint, and they paint fence and it's white. And so they always end up with paint all over them in their hair. I end up having to cut it out, and this paint's it stays for weeks.
Oh, it's like an acrylic oil based.
It is so sticky, and
yeah.
It's on, sometimes I'm like, is it worth it? Because it's on the furniture. It's just, but it's teaching them work ethic. And so they're painting fence, they're mowing. Our daughter is now like doing the dishes every day, helping with laundry. She deep cleans the house every now and then for me. She knows how to help me clean Airbnbs. We're just trying to teach them hard work.
Yeah. And those jobs teach them. And they might not like painting fence in the moment, but then when we drive by it, they're like, "Hey, we painted that."
Right.
And that goes back to our other point, is like, you're proud of those things that you've done. That's why we're wired to go work and do things. And we've built about a mile worth of fence that they're getting ready to start painting on.
They're going to have a lot of fence
painting. They're like, "Oh, it's going to take us forever." And I'm like, "Yeah, it'll take you a while, but little by little, we'll chip away at it, and you'll be so proud when you're done. And you look back, and it's just beautiful white fence."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So work is a good thing. Work teaches you things. Work grows you. And if you'll allow it to, the work that you do and your kids do, it does prepare you for the future and what God has for you. So just don't be afraid to put hard work in. It is good for you.
Yeah. And if you're, the only way to climb the ladder of success is you start at the bottom and climb your way up.
There is no easy button. And that's the hard thing. There is no easy take me to the top. That's just not how it works. Sometimes like you wish that you could just skip all that, skip the middle, but you can't skip the middle. You have to put the work in. Your kids have to put the work in, and it'll be worth it.
Yeah, so have your kids start, jobs early, 16, and before that around the house, and, teach them those kind of lessons. It's always interesting to me when I interview people that have just graduated college and they've never really had a job. And then they graduate college and they just expect me to pay them $70,000 a year or $100,000 a year. And I'm looking at them going, are you nuts? Like, do you know how to sell? No. Do you know how to market? No. Do you know about insurance? No. And it's like, you're not worth anything to me. You've got to go learn the skills in here to even get to that point, and then you'll earn it, and they're just like deflated because they haven't had any of these crappy jobs yet. They don't know and understand how the workforce operates, and they just think that I got a piece of paper, I think you should pay me a bunch. And it's like, you don't have a work ethic, not showing up on time.
We got to teach our kids that earlier. And our daughter told me yesterday, which I thought was great, in social studies, their teacher had them look up a prospective career and then see what they make on average. And so for her, she said interior designer. So she looked it up and they make like $63,000 a year, which is funny because when we were 13, that would have been a lot of money.
Oh yeah.
But for her now with, inflation and how much things cost, she's like, Mom, that's not that much. And I'm like, that's actually kind of funny because that would have been a lot to us. But he had them, he gave them expenses. He's like, okay, let's break down this per month. What would you be making? Okay. I think hers was like $5,000 a month. But he said, okay, you have your mortgage, you have your car, you have this. She's like, Mom, I had $500 at the end of the month. I said, did he even have you calculate gas and groceries? She said, well, he told us you still have to consider these things, but we didn't have to actually subtract them. She said, and Mom, some kids were in the negative. I'm like, exactly.
Yeah.
So I said, that's important to think about on your future career of how much money do you need to live?
Yeah, because they don't think about that. They're just like, I want to go be a teacher. I want to go be a this or a that, or a firefighter or a veterinarian. And it's like, these kids need to, I think that's a great exercise. Okay. How much does that career
pay? How will that work? Yeah.
Yeah. And what are some examples of real life expenses? And then see, is that what you want to really do? And kids don't do that, I feel like, until it's too late. And a lot of them don't do it until they've gone $100,000 in debt and then student loans in college, and they get out. Then they realize, oh, shoot.
I might email that teacher and tell him I appreciate that.
Yeah, exercise. I think that was a good lesson. So, but if they start out early working some tough jobs and get low paychecks and hard work, and then pay attention to what the people that are paying them do and how they operate, they've got a lot better perspective, when they grow up of what it really takes.
Yeah. So work is good, work hard, learn the lessons that work teaches you so that it will equip you to live your best life, honestly, and to live the life God's called you to.
Yeah, it's the goal.
That's the goal.
Till next time.
See you next week.